If you're familiar with Yuki, you're probably already aware of the fact that Dragon Dobok is super good on him. If you've ever used Dragon Dobok, you know it synergizes with his kit really well, as he's a relatively mana-hungry character, and having the ability to have extra reach on your Q makes it easier to make your stuns actually connect. Now, here's the downside of Dragon Dobok, right? Dragon Dobok is a pain in the ass to build. It's often going to make your build 5, maybe 6 zones. It doesn't really go well with a lot of crit builds in terms of their pathing. It's always a pain. However, this build manages to pull it off, and it has an additional added spice of having a weapon swap halfway through the build. Now, this build is something that you've probably never tried before, and I would urge you to check it out. Between Cemetery and Hospital, we can make a Plasma Sword in just those 2 areas. It builds really fast. Now, Plasma Sword, it's really strong and all. It's got 75 attack power, which is really high for a 2-handed sword, but it maybe doesn't scale the best in the late game, and that's why we're going to be eventually swapping it out for a Hovid later on in the game. At the end of our 4 zones, we'll only be missing a hammer to finish a Hovid. We get the rest of the materials as we go. So essentially, what this build is a weapon rush with a weapon swap so that we actually scale into the late game. And rather than going over each item individually, I'm going to briefly glance over these 3 crit items because they're pretty self-explanatory. When you're running crit, Crystal Tiara is the crit head. Creed of the Night gives you crit damage, which basically nothing else in the game can give you. And Bucephalus is the best shoe choice as it's the one that gives you crit without needing a VF sample. Now, we've already talked about Dobok. Dobok is great. Yes, it doesn't give you crit damage or crit chance, but it gives you cooldown reduction, and it gives you range and a little bit of attack power, and it gives you SP regen. All of those stats do really well on Yuki. And of course, Hovid, which is the weapon we're swapping into, gives us a lot of HP for the late game, and it also gives us even more crit strike chance, a nice 20%. Now you might be asking yourself, but wait a minute, you've got 2 weapons there and only 4 pieces of equipment. What about your accessory slot? And here's the thing about the accessory slot. I can't show it because we can only have 6 items shown here, but our accessory is going to be a laced quiver, which is the attack speed item that builds out of bamboo plus leather and then a feather duster. The bamboo and leather part is the only one you really need to worry about, and you can get the bamboo in either cemetery or temple. You can also, if you want to finish the full thing, you can get the feather in cemetery or hospital and get the short rod in temple or dock. It's a very flexible accessory for this build. I would recommend building it, but it's a simpler recipe than the Hovid, so I'd recommend keeping the Hovid in just so you know that you get the materials for your 2 swords. As far as the route goes, you can either go cemetery, hospital, temple, dock, which will let you finish your plasma sword in 2 zones, but here's the only issue with that, is that temple's really contested at the moment. It's one of the most popular hot zones to drop because a lot of the materials go into a lot of builds. So if you're seeing too many people starting temple, I would actually encourage you to start there as well. Get what you can and get out. Don't spend too much time. Open 5, 6 boxes, grab what you can, and get out of there. TP either to cemetery or hospital, and then finish your plasma sword. If you do it fast, you won't spend too much time in temple, and if you're missing anything crucial out of temple, you can just go to 1 zone later on to fill in that 1 item, and it doesn't matter as much. But going to temple 3rd, if you had 5 people spawning there, will probably mean you get nothing out of it. And that just about covers it. Let's go into a game and see how this build works out. I'm actually just going to start temple this time. Try and grab what I can, and then TP to cemetery afterwards. Surely this will work. You know what? Actually, it worked. It completely worked. So rather than making garlic bread, I'm going to be saving my bread for mocha bread. Cemetery Hospital lets you make mocha bread, which is really good. We're just missing iron, and then we can move on to hospital, where most of our build's going to come together. Although a bamboo would not be objected to at this point. Here it is. So we can finish an early quiver. And there's our mocha bread. So our food's great right now. Pretty much no one can mess with us. And we're about to finish our weapon too. I'm gonna make a little bit more coffee liqueur, because then we go to dock, we can get some more bread there, and make even more mocha bread. We're just missing a scrap to finish our weapon, and then we're done here. Ideally, I'd rather not be doing this on a white weapon, but I do want to just get my leather and not have to think about it too hard, so that's what we're going to be doing. Also, we finished the ruby just by picking it up off a wolf, so honestly, we could just go straight into Hovid. We don't even have to worry about plasma sword. We're just missing the glass, so we can just move on. Kind of an interesting development. Normally you would finish the plasma sword, but since we got that ruby off of the wolf, we can just go straight to Hovid. We're gonna drop this, pick up the bamboo, make our quiver. Grab that. Grab this, finish that. And by that, I mean our laced quiver, which is a really nice accessory for our early game boost of power. Now we're just missing glass bottles. That's the main thing we're missing out of dock, which there should be plenty of still. People don't really take glass out of dock that much anymore. So I'm assuming it'll all just be here. The question is, will it? But even if we're ignoring that, we've finished most of the rest of our build. We have to pick up some branches to make sure we finish our TR. Really want to just find this last glass. I'll just make the weapon. It's probably not worth waiting, since we're not getting too lucky. If someone shows up, we need to have our weapon done. So as far as skilling order goes, I'd highly recommend maxing E first, and you're going to see why when we get into any fights. Spamming E and refreshing it with W is really, really important. Yuki can't get away without it. He also can't chase without it. And we've even got our creed done. At this point, all we're missing is just one more glass bottle to finish our tiara. It's not even day 2 yet, and we've got all of our pieces. We just have to finish crafting and we're done. We even have a bunch of 700 food to sit on. I couldn't be more confident. So how about that? Start at day 2, everything crafted, everything finished. Now we're just here to chase pings. I'm gonna go pond. Since we've got a bunch of free time, I'm gonna go pond and see if we can see any pings over here. And even if we can't, we can start working on some traps. Also, if you get the chance, you should definitely be farming bears. They give a lot of free experience. And potentially force cores and stuff that give you emerald tablets you can swap into, more remote mines, things like that. Nice. Okay, so actually that's a force core in the making. If we get a tree of life, we can upgrade that. I'm gonna eat some bread and just walk into this fight. We can absolutely third party this fight. Hey, well, you just stole our kill. Whoa, it is a party here. I'm gonna wait a little bit to try and get some of our healing going, because we do have good food, and I'm pretty sure anyone we're against may not have nearly as good of food. So she wasted her Q. I'm gonna go in now. Nice. That was a weird situation. That Magnus with just a random Q stealing our Dylan, or no, was it a Kiara kill? Whoever the first kill was. And then he just like left, and then there was a Dylan there. Like there's just a lot going on. You're looking for axes, and then we're gonna be looking for any knives we can get our hands on to finish our double guillotines. Also, we do know that Wick is going to be showing up in about a minute and a half. Nice. This is a lot of pendulum axes. I'm gonna sit down, just get full HP. Rather than using my mocha bread, I'd rather just keep that for a big fight, because we don't have an easy way of getting a decent amount more food. We could just make some bake harp while we're here. Maybe I'll do that. It seems like actually a decent option, because we do have one nighter we're sitting on. Also, if you don't know this, cooking food gives you a lot of health mastery. So even if you're not going to eat the food, cooking a lot of decent, you know, blue tier, purple tier food, that sort of stuff, it increases your max HP by quite a bit. So we're starting at like roughly 8 healing mastery, and you can see that bar is going up pretty fast. So even just that's leveling our character up, it's leveling up our mastery, it's all good. And it gives us food options, so in case we churn through all of our mocha bread in a fight, we've got backup food. So now we just need a bunch of knives. I did leave one right here, I'm curious, it is still there, that's funny. So we're gonna craft that away. There should be roughly like 4 to 5 knives per zone that has knives. We could get them at dock 2, but dock is closed, so it's really just temple and hotel. I'd recommend crafting the jungle guillotines as you go, because jungle guillotines, they stack, but knives don't. And while it would be nice to craft all the double guillotines right now, unfortunately that takes a lot of time. Maybe make 2 just in case you get into a fight and you need them for some reason, but I wouldn't craft the whole stack until you get all of your knives, because if you spend all your time crafting, say, in Temple, and then in that time Hotel starts going, you may not have enough time to actually go get the rest of the knives. 3 force core. Now that's interesting. If we get a nail, we can combine to make a set of remote mines. Which is really nice. So for nails, we want to go to archery. But we're gonna look for a few more knives before we go. We are almost done crafting though. Ooh, actually, we could go into Hermes boots. That is an option. Hermes boots versus remote mines is actually a tough call. I think I'm gonna stick with the remote mines for now, simply because I want the crit chance from the Bucephalus. But that's actually a very tough call, because Hermes boots are quite good. Wick's in forest right now. She might be getting caught. So I think I'm just gonna focus on my traps for now. If she pings again, like Hotel or something, I'm definitely gonna be on my way. We can sustain 1 more knife, and then we are out of trap materials. But it's not like we haven't made a bunch of guillotines, so we're doing great. Okay, so somebody picked up Wick. I'm not stressing over that. Our main goal was to get all these traps done, so trading Wick for all these traps, I think is a good trade. Oh, and the guy who picked up Wick just died, so there's not even someone with Wick buff who could potentially pick us up. It's just a 1v1, me and... Oh, they traded. The Zahir and the... What the hell? The Zahir and the Sniper Aya, they just traded. Which means that there's probably just a remote, or like a force core sitting on a body out there. I should go check that out. It should be in forest. We've got a billion double guillotines. We've got 3 remote mines. We've got decent food. We've got decent mastery. Our build's completely done. Like, we're incredibly favored to win this match. Here's one. Oh. There we go. Oh, we didn't even have to use all of them. It's unfortunate. But we had that as an option in case it came to it. Honestly, those guillotines won us the fight. We only had to use 2, but they won every single aspect of that fight. I gotta say, I really love this Yuki build. I'm a big fan of the Dobok for the extra range. I'm a big fan of Hovid giving us a lot of crit strike chance. I'm a big fan of just everything about it. The build comes together really fast. We don't have a really weak point at any point in the game. And, I mean, at the end of the day, we have plenty of time to make a bunch of traps. Yuki with traps is really strong. Even though there was a strange trade between the Zahir and the Sniper Aya, at the end of the day, we won the mirror match, Yuki v Yuki. And it was definitely because we had all those traps backing us up. So overall, I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this build. If you played a lot of Yuki, or maybe you've been trying out some spicy Yuki builds or something, let me know what you've been playing with. But in any case, I'll catch you guys later.